We all have countless fond memories of Dad. I'd like to share one of mine. About 4 years ago, the Kilbourne guys took a very special pilgrimage. I guess you'd call it a pig-sitting pilgrimage. It was just me and my son Liam, my brother Thomas, and his son Ryan, and Dad. We decided that we'd share a dream football vacation. For us, this meant meeting up to go to 2 great football games back-to-back with one of our family's favorite college football teams and our other favorite NFL team. So we went to Ann Arbor, Michigan for a Wolverine football game in that huge, loud stadium. From there, we traveled to Washington, D.C. to take in a Redskins game the next day. It was a fantastic, fun, noisy, wild adventure, and we all had an absolute blast. But what I'll always remember most about that glorious testosterone-charged expedition was the day we headed back home. We were staying at the Chevy Chase Club in Maryland, and we were heading out at dark 30 the next morning. My son and I said our goodbyes to Dad the last night before we left, since he didn't have to catch an early bird flight like we did. There was no sense in all of us being up at such an ungodly hour. Anyway, there we were the next morning out in front of the hotel, getting ready to leave. About 5 a.m., pitch black, and pouring down rain. And yes, there was Dad, still in his boxer shorts, no shirt, getting completely soaked, there to see us off. He just couldn't let us leave without sharing those last few minutes with us, without saying goodbye, and exchanging those final laughs and hugs and important words. He had a way of always doing that, always going that extra mile, always squeezing those extra few minutes, always making that extra little effort that made us all feel so special. Dad knew that time was precious, and that family time was the most precious time of all. Today we join for a final farewell. It's hard to believe that our precious time with him on this earth has come to a close. I half expect him to suddenly appear, as he did so often, caring so much more about us than himself, assuring us that it's all right. It'll all work out. Squeezing just a few more minutes with us. Dad was just that kind of guy. Such a passion for his family and his friends, and such an irrepressible belief that everything would work out fine. He was right. Everything will indeed work out fine. I say this because my father left a priceless legacy for all of us to carry in our hearts forever. That legacy is found in the lessons of his extraordinary life, and his way of living it. He was born in Washington, D.C. That's where his love of the Redskins began. He attended Choate School in Connecticut and then joined the Navy and became a helicopter pilot. Great picture there, by the way. Within a couple of years, he knew the thrill of taking off and landing on aircraft carriers. Dad then enrolled at Yale on a scholarship from the Navy, graduated, and went to the University of Michigan School of Law again on a scholarship. He went to work in Washington, D.C. after that, and then found incredible success at Norsen Energy Resources in Canada. At Norsen, Dad held the position of Vice President, Corporate Secretary, and Legal Counsel, all at the same time. But it was what my father was beyond his great career accomplishments that was his true legacy. Dad was the ultimate family man. For him, it was family first and family always. He never missed a wedding, a christening, or any other important family event. When we planned our daughter Ashley's christening in Paris, he was the first one there, insisting on foregoing a nice hotel to stay with us and sleep in her room. Another time we were scheduled to depart on a family safari to Kenya after the attacks of 9/11. As I'm sure you recall, no one wanted to fly anywhere, much less Africa. Everyone in the group was getting cold feet, and one couple had already canceled. Not Bill. See you in Nairobi, he said, and without any hesitation at all. His commitment to charge ahead helped make the trip a great, memorable success, as others decided to follow his example and go through the trip after all. He would drop everything to meet us anywhere we were: Paris, Kenya, Mexico, Turkey, Seattle. When I moved up to San Francisco after college, he was there to help me pick up my first furniture from the Salvation Army. When Lynn and I took another trip to Africa last September to celebrate my wife's 50th birthday, Dad leaped at the chance to come and stay with our kids. We learned when we got back that while certain chores and projects had been neglected, Dad planned an adventure every day, and they were busy. And apparently only burned dinner a couple of times. I was able to spend 12 hours at the hospital with Dad near the end. I stayed in there until they kicked me out around midnight. who talks about all kinds of things. And as always, just enjoys spending time. He was pretty tired from his ordeal, but he was lucid and aware. And Dad was all family man right to the end. What really held his deep interest were the periodic texts that my wife was sending about my daughter's baseball game. The Padres, they won the city championship. He was so proud of her and Liam as he was of all his 12 grandchildren. And as always, he was focused on his family. In addition to being the ultimate family man, Dad was also quite an adventurer. True to his helicopter pilot background, he just seemed to always believe that he could pick up and go anywhere and land whenever he wanted to. Forget the flight plan, he flew by the seat of his pants. He was fearless and supremely confident, and had an unshakable faith that everything was always going to work out. And persuasive. He always managed to convince us that even the wildest schemes would surely work out just fine. As kids, Thomas, Lori, and I went to Disney World with my dad. It was during spring break. We walked into a very popular hotel on the Disney property. The place was jam-packed, no vacancies, and as usual, Dad didn't have reservations. Cool and unabashed, Dad gave us some money to go out and enjoy the attractions. By the time we got back 2 hours later, he'd somehow finagled 2 rooms for the entire week. As always, as he always said, everything will work out fine. Turkey was yet another adventure. Lynn and I were traveling around the world, meeting various family members at different locations, carefully coordinating each global rendezvous down to minute in a specific meeting place. This was pre-internet and cell phones, so precision was important. Well, Dad and Judy agreed to meet us in Turkey at the Tiyatro Antique, a small fishing village of Bodrum. We arrived on the appointed day and time and sat in the ancient theater and waited for Dad and Jude. And waited. And waited. After 2 hours, we were in a panic. Crestfallen that Dad had been sidetracked, lost, or just suffered a communication error. We sadly started to watch the bus station to catch a ride out of town. Suddenly, miraculously, Dad and Judy pulled up in a funky rental car. Dad poked his head out the window and hollered, "Whoa!" His grin was unforgettable, as if everything was going according to his plan. Turns out they had reservations at the Tiyatro Antique Hotel, located around the corner from the rooms that we were sitting in. I don't think they ever realized just how close we had all come to missing them and the opportunity to spend a week enjoying their company in Turkey. Dad was also very humble and earnest, in every man. He was very comfortable in his own skin. He knew who he was and never pretended to be anything else. In Calgary, he worked with the mayor, was part of the Winter Olympics planning and hosting, and moved in some pretty high circles. He ran with the big dogs and was successful and influential. Yet, he also worked tirelessly to champion a coalition for the homeless, was founding chairman of the Esther Honen's International Piano Competition, who was also a huge supporter of the Calgary Philharmonic Orchestra. He was equally at home with government leaders, captains of industry, the homeless and the hungry, and aspiring artists in need of encouragement and sponsorship. Dad was always comfortably well-dressed, classy in a way that defies description. We didn't care about social class, and he always flew coach, even though first class was well within his means. It just seemed too exorbitant to him, and he didn't want to treat himself like he was something special. Of course, we all know that he was. And engaging. Dad always made you feel like you were the only person in the room when he talked to you. He took others for who they were as people, not what they were in society or where they came from. He was supremely generous and always willing to give someone in need the shirt off his back. To paraphrase Kipling, he could walk with canes, but never lost the common touch. Dad was the ultimate of compliments he often bestowed on others, a good egg, in every man. The ultimate family man, a peerless and fearless adventurer, and in every man. That was my dad. How was Dad able to give so much to himself? No. An easy question to then answer. Well, that's an easy question to answer. It was because of the love of his life, Judy. Judy stood beside my father for 30 years as his soulmate, his foundation, and confidant. His one true love and his best friend. Judy's profound love and understanding and support gave Dad's life the physical, emotional, and spiritual balance that freed him up to be his best. Judy completed and fulfilled my dad. It was inspiring to see them together. For that, we all feel such gratitude, and our hearts go out to Judy as time for time is lost. Dad was such a fighter, like Rocky. When life knocked him down, he always got right back up. He was always so earnestly persuasive, so upbeat, and certain that everything would work out. He even successfully convinced us that you'd be fine and everything would be okay, right to the end. And standing here today, it's clear to me that he's still with us. And will always be with us. His incomparable spirit will continue to bless our family gatherings and our lives. The great legacy of faith and wisdom and strength he left guides us through our story now. And as we grieve his loss in the days ahead, we'll also feel great gratitude for the many gifts that his life bestowed upon all of us. Gifts that we and our children will carry forth. We will always be deeply thankful to him. And we will never forget the many ways in which our lives have been enriched by him. As you said so many times, Dad, good on you. Good on you. For a life well lived and well loved. We will always do our best to honor your memory and legacy. We will always do our best to honor your memory and the legacy of love and compassion you've left for us. Good on you, Dad. May you rest in peace.